Are you struggling to lose fat although you're following all the fat loss advice and doing everything right? You eat healthy, cut your calories, track your macros, go to the gym, and still your dream body is just not there. I understand you. I've been there too. But what if I told you that a lot of the fitness advice that women follow is exactly what's keeping us stuck? This video might just save you years of wasted effort and frustration. For a long time, I wasn't happy with how my body looked. Nothing worked for me, and it took me an entire decade to finally figure it out. However, it required a lot of unlearning things I had learned about fitness, health, and fat loss. And in this video, I'll share with you 9 fitness myths that every woman needs to stop believing to get healthy and finally lose that fat and tone up. The video is timestamped below, but I recommend you watching the entire video to not miss any important details that could be the crucial part in your fat loss journey. The first fat loss fact that women need to unlearn is something that almost every woman does, yet it's probably ruining your waistline. I used to believe that training my abs will give me abs, so I dedicated a lot of time and many years to training them. I even used to believe that you can actually burn belly fat by training your abs. But interestingly enough, my abs and waist just got thicker. So I trained them even harder to make my abs finally come out. However, instead of my abs popping, I developed insane pain after each session that would go all the way to my pelvis, and I couldn't really understand what was causing it. Was it my stomach or something else? But turned out it was my ab muscles cramping. So I stopped training my abs, thinking that now I will never be able to get abs anymore. But the opposite happened. I got abs by not training them at all. So here's the thing. Ab crunches won't give you abs. In fact, you don't need to do a single ab crunch in order to get abs. And this one was the hard one for me to comprehend. But here's what's up. To have visible abs, you need a low fat percentage, but training your abs won't burn belly fat locally. Also, a very important thing is that you should understand your body goals, because I think that a lot of women and girls confuse this part. Let me explain. This and this are of course both fit, but they're fit in a very different way. Here, she has muscle and a really low fat percentage, whereas here, she is, let's say, more skinny. And I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but I wanted this. But by doing so many ab crunches, I was actually training for this. I was training for the body I actually didn't even want. I wanted a flat stomach and a bit of definition in my abs, but not necessarily a super low fat percentage. But what ended up happening, in addition to the pain, is that my abs and waist got thicker and more puffier. Because when you train a muscle, it gets bigger. You train your booty to make it bigger, right? Well, exactly the same happens with your ab muscles too. And once I stopped training my abs, doing those ab crunches, my waist actually started shrinking because I wasn't training my abs anymore. So if you want a small waist, I mean you want to look like this, then you don't need to do isolated ab exercises. Your abs get enough training already just by working out, because they're engaged in many exercises you might be doing, because it's your core that's holding you, so therefore they're engaged in many exercises. And if you want a small waist, what you definitely want to avoid is training your abs with added weight, because that only trains your abs even more and is going to make your waist even thicker, unless your goal is this. And one more thing I need to mention about abs is that if you have love handles, you're probably making the same mistakes I used to make. I used to think that in order to get rid of my love handles, I need to train my side abs. But no, it's the same thing. Training your side abs is going to just build muscle there. It's not going to burn fat there locally. To get rid of the love handles, fat loss is the key, not ab crunches. Which brings me to the second fat loss fact that women need to unlearn. If you're still dieting in hope to lose fat, you need to hear this, because it's ruining your fat loss. To lose fat, I used to be on a diet all the time. I cut calories and kept my cravings in check. And in the beginning, it did work, but then at some point it stopped working. So I cut even more calories, to the point where I was eating 800 calories a day, but my body composition was getting all in reverse, which didn't make sense, because isn't it that the less you eat, the skinnier you should be? Yes and no. Let me explain. It works to a certain extent, but if you keep being on a diet without giving yourself a break, you will hit a weight loss plateau, because your metabolism will slow down. And to get out of that weight loss plateau, you need to activate your metabolism, and to activate your metabolism, you need to start eating more. But if you start eating more after you've been starving yourself for ages, you will gain weight, which means that you will be yo-yo dieting, but it doesn't have to be this way. At least I got tired of this yo-yo diet, so I just started eating whenever I was hungry, and I stopped eating whenever I was full. Not trying to be on a diet or calculate calories or macros, but just listened to my body. Whenever it asked for food, I gave it, and whenever it said it was full, I stopped eating. And this is the best thing I've ever done. I lost fat and kept it off for good. But here's something you should know. If you've been dieting for a long time and you start eating more, or I mean you start eating normal, then you will unfortunately gain weight. But after your metabolism will start working properly again, your weight will normalize, and it's definitely worth it. Because I didn't mention yet the worst part that can happen with dieting. Since I used to cut my calories and be on a diet all the time, it led to crazy binging sessions, usually in the evenings. It was crazy. I would eat everything that came in my way, a bag of bread, Ben& Jerry's, chocolate boxes. So my daily diets ended with binging sessions. And if you're binging, I want you to know that this is not about having poor self-control. This is about your body working on an animal level, just taking what it needs. But the thing is that your dieting during the days won't make sense if you're binging during the nights. That's why just eat the damn food and stop dieting. Stop being afraid of food during the daytime. It's not the food that can make you fat, it's your food habits. Here's what you need to understand. Constant dieting can seriously damage your health and in the long run can ruin your fat loss for good. I talked more about this in this video, but when it comes to binging, if you want a super simple tip on how to stop binging for good, I'm going to link a free resource in the comments below so you can get it for yourself and finally stop binging for good. The next fitness myth that women need to stop believing is that hyped superfoods will make you healthy and make you lose fat. I remember the times when I used to only eat chia pudding, quinoa, avocados, drank matcha in hope to get my dream body. But here's the thing. These trendy and hyped health foods are marketing tricks to make you want to give them your money. For example, currently in the US, the health industry has found a new superfood called kefir. It's being marketed as the new superfood for your gut health and is being sold for $12, if not more. Here in Finland, this kefir has been available for us for ages and no one even cares about it. Only like old people drink it and me. And it costs €2, so it's like under $3. I'm not saying that these hyped health foods are not healthy, they definitely are. But what I'm saying is that the absence of these hyped health foods in your diet won't make you unhealthy. In order to get healthy or lose fat, you don't need to specifically have these hyped health foods in your diet if your budget doesn't allow it, for example, or whatever else. Health doesn't need to be trendy. Simple and less hyped is healthy too. I mean, look into your grandma's recipes, such as vegetable stew, white potatoes, or fermented cabbage. Which brings me to the next fat loss myth that women need to unlearn. And my hair is not under control today, so I'm sorry if I look a bit crazy. I used to limit healthy foods. For example, I didn't eat white potatoes, but I did eat sweet potatoes because white potatoes are unhealthy and sweet potatoes are healthy. I avoided rice, but I ate quinoa. I avoided normal bread, but I ate protein bread. I avoided fruits because the sugar in fruits is unhealthy, and the list goes on. If I could go back in time, I would slap myself and really hard. So if you're currently doing this, that you're limiting certain foods, healthy foods, because you're thinking that they make you fat or unhealthy, then let this video be a slap for you. Here's the thing. Anything that grows on this planet and it's not poisonous for you is healthy for you, unless you have an allergy, intolerance, or other health issue with that food. A white potato won't make you fat unless you eat kilograms of it, but that same will apply to sweet potatoes too. These foods have valuable nutrients and benefits for your health, and cutting them out completely at least did big damage for my health. I had constant bloating, my stomach was super sensitive to everything, I had often stomach issues and pain, and often I was also super hungry all the time. In general, eating was super complicated because I all the time tried to find different recipes, nutritious recipes that would keep me full for long enough time from the foods that I was allowing myself to eat. And once I stopped with this nonsense, I got over my fear and I started eating different foods diversely, potatoes of all kinds, rice, fruits, and so on. My digestive issues disappeared. And no, I didn't get fat. Quite the opposite. But this is not everything, which brings me to the next fat loss fact that women need to stop believing. In addition to limiting healthy foods, I also used to overcomplicate my life by trying to find healthier alternatives for certain unhealthy recipes such as cakes, cookies, and so on. I was really psychotic about avoiding flour, sugar, white sugar, or butter or anything else that's bad for your health, to the point where even if I had a party, I will try to find a healthy cake recipe because I used to think that If I eat even a small piece, even one piece of cake made of real white sugar and butter, it will make me unhealthy and my fat loss will be ruined. One of the best things I've ever done in my life is quitting with this craziness and started eating proper cakes again. Here's the thing. Of course, white sugar and flour are processed foods, which means that their nutrition value is near zero. And if we add their butter, cream, and jam, it obviously is less healthy for you. So from a nutrition point of view, it doesn't really make sense to eat them. But what about just enjoying life once in a while? And if I'm being honest, I don't think that real cakes are the real problem here. Because if you look at people from 60s or 80s, they ate much more of sugar, flour, butter, and all this bad stuff, but yet obesity was much less then. So the question is it the sugar, fat, and flour, or is it something else, such as the rise of industrial formulations in our foods, for example? Whatever that might be, my conclusion is that a proper cake once in a while won't do you harm. So if you are having a party, make the damn cake. Don't try to find some paleo, sugar, yeast, flour, milk, egg-free cake recipe and torture your guests and yourself. Now, let's talk about the most important thing when it comes to fat loss. Protein, the holy macro of fat loss. You're not gonna like me for this, but the entire fuss around protein is a little bit too much, in my opinion. It's like protein, protein, protein. You need protein in order to build muscle and burn fat, and if you don't get enough protein, you're going to ruin your fat loss and your entire life. Now, don't get me wrong, protein is important, but when it comes to it, everyone can relax a bit. I had to do it too. I used to be really obsessed about getting enough protein, and I often run into the problem that how can I get enough protein? It always felt so hard to get enough protein, so I would search for different protein-rich recipes or try to meet my daily protein needs with protein powders or protein bars. But those protein bars made me always feel really bad. Like I could get really bloated or just feel not completely 100% in my thinking, brain fog, tired, cause hormonal issues, and just not optimal because they're filled with artificial ingredients. And at the same time, I would avoid foods that are naturally rich in protein because I used to think they're unhealthy. But once I relaxed with this protein stuff and I understood certain things about protein, which I'm going to share with you in a sec, my life became so much less complicated. First of all, I stopped obsessing over protein and I quit trying to supplement it with protein bars or protein powders, and instead I just started eating normal food that naturally comes from this earth. And yes, I'm totally fine, in fact even better, because here's the thing. You can get more than enough protein from just eating normal foods, because the thing is that if you're just a normal person, just trying to tone up, you don't even need that much of protein that you would need to supplement it. Of course, if you're a bodybuilder, then that's a whole totally different thing. And why I say that the fuss around protein is a bit too much is because protein alone isn't enough to keep you satisfied for long. You need carbs and fats too. You need a balanced plate. However, sometimes, occasionally, I can have a protein bar if I'm too busy during the day that I cannot get enough food for myself. But I make sure that it doesn't become my daily part of my daily diet. And second, when I eat a protein bar, I make sure that it's not made of any artificial ingredients. Speaking of protein, the next fat loss fact, or maybe I will even call this a health fact, that women need to stop believing, unlearn completely, is that eating salads is the most ultimate healthy form of consuming food. No, girl. Been there, done that, and all I'm gonna say is that it's extremely sad. Which brings me to the next fat loss fact that women need to unlearn, and it's probably the most toxic one. I used to never miss a day of workouts. No matter if my friends were together having fun, I was at the gym because I used to believe that if you want to be fit, you can't have a social life. And if I sometimes, really rarely, joined my friends, I would feel super bad and guilty and I couldn't really relax or be present or enjoy the company of my friends. And if our plans were to eat out, I would first starve myself the entire day to not feel guilty for eating out with my friends, and I will choose for the healthiest option from the menu, such as salads or something else. Or if you're talking about drinks, cocktails, I will choose always for gin tonic, vodka tonic with lime, because it has the least amount of calories. Yeah, and it went even so far that in most cases, I will try to work out before I see my friends. If you recognize yourself from this, please stop. You can be fit and have a social life too. In fact, it's even better because being at the gym every day is not going to give you the results you want. In fact, if we're being serious, you don't even need to work out in order to lose fat. Which brings me to the next fat loss fact that women need to unlearn. Each workout, I made sure I sweat. My workout philosophy used to be that the harder, the better. I did gym to build muscle and cardio to burn fat because I thought that that's the combo that's going to give me that toned and lean body. But instead, I was getting bigger, puffier, and more swollen. Why? Because I was training too hard. I was training like a man, and all I needed to do to see the results I wanted was start working out like a woman. And once I did, the results came so effortlessly, it's almost unbelievable. So what I did is that I became more intuitive with my workouts, paying attention to my energy levels and working out accordingly, and most importantly, heavily reducing the intensity of my workouts. This was really hard for me mentally because it was really hard for me to believe that with doing less, you can actually get results. When I say this, it doesn't mean that you can never now work out hard again and never get sweaty. No. All I'm saying is that if you're every day pushing yourself hard, pushing yourself to the limits, it is not beneficial for you. Been there, done that, and I do not recommend it. If you train more intuitive based on your energy levels and maybe even cycle sync your workouts, it's much better for your feminine health and therefore your body and fat loss. So dear woman, you don't need to push yourself so hard in order to get your dream body. Be more like Charlie. Sleep and relax more. If you've been stuck with fat loss without seeing results, maybe even for years, then you really need to watch this video next.